Hello, Kathleen. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for doing this.
Happy to be here. Very happy to be here. I adore you.
Oh, I have a memory of us doing your podcast that you had a long time ago, the Suck the Joy podcast. And I remember coming over. It was a little bit far. It's like West Side. Remember that? West
Yep.
Side. And we recorded. We had such a really good show. We recorded for like an hour and a half, and then your producer was like, it didn't record. Remember that?
So we just hung out for an hour.
We
Yeah,
did.
we had some technical difficulties. That's a problem with the Gen X and the newfangled computers. Where's the on switch? Yeah.
I know, but and then I was like, "Oh my God, that was," and we were both so bummed. We were like, "That was so good. We were
I
about to
know.
be podcast stars." And then I had to come back. I came back like another time and we redid it. I feel like we recaptured. How long did you do that podcast?
I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and we had a ball. It just, we ended up having artistic differences because he wanted he very much wanted a non-structured thing, and I wanted to start bringing structure into it. So that's a pretty big impasse, I think. Is that the wrong word? If I say the wrong word, do
No, that
please edit it
that's
out.
the right. That
Uh,
no, that's correct.
okay,
You
good.
reached an impasse.
Yes.
Uh
But I
I
love him so much. He just moved to Palm Springs. Corey, his name is Corey
yeah,
Bonnell. Chef's kiss of a human being. I love him so much.
is he still doing podcasts?
No, no. We also got into politics a lot, and that is, you have to be pretty ballsy to do that. And since then, I've been very strong in my opinions, but I ended up getting like I wasn't able to hear the other side. So that doesn't make you a very good I don't know. I don't think that makes you like, I wanted to just scream at the universe, and I didn't think that made for a very good podcast. We had a friend of mine, this guy, he's a gun teacher. He teaches people how to shoot guns. Well, of course, he is pro gun. That's his living, that's his passion. Like, he gives a shit. He wants people to be armed up. That's his whole thing. And I wanted him on the podcast to just have a discussion with us, and I had him listen to a bunch of previous podcasts, and he's like, there's no way on God's green earth I'd go on that podcast. And I was like, why? He's like, you guys have no open mind to my perspective on this at all, and I realized, like, wow, we are not professional podcasters. Like, and it was just sort of it was a little bit of a moment where we were like, hmm. And then when I had a difference of opinion with Corey, my podcast partner, I didn't feel like I presented my position with any kind of strength or intelligence. I just wanted to scream at him and say, it's just how I feel. Stop, which is not, again, doesn't make you a great debater.
So
Like,
he didn't receive that well. Listen, you guys made it 4 or 5 years, you said. That's a long time for podcasters.
yeah, we made a lot of podcasts. We had some really good ones too, I thought.
Sometimes it just runs its course and you
Yeah.
feel like you want it to be different and the other person feels doesn't feel that way because I can see both sides of what you're saying right now. Like I think what's glorious about podcasting is it can just be free form. I mean, this podcast hangs itself on being about sobriety, but I feel like a lot of podcasts that I like to listen to are just, we don't know where they're going to go.
Oh, interesting. And I prefer very, like, I love Heather Cox Richardson,
Uh-huh.
and she's basically just reading her piece, or another one I like, Ezra Klein, which is also, he doesn't know where he's going to go, but he has a very strong position. What else there's some podcasts I adore. I did listen to every episode of Dying for Sex, and then now the show's on, and I'm one episode away from finishing it, and I just think it's so good.
I
It's just,
loved that podcast. Yeah.
yeah, it was so good. And then the Murdow Murders, which is, I just did a mini series called the Murdow Murders, based on this podcast that Mandy Matney did about the Murdaugh murders. She did 97 episodes from, and she ended up inserting herself in the actual trial because she uncovered she did some, Crime Stop or whatever, amateur sleuthing, and she was in the actual trial. So it was kind of fun to meet her at the end of the miniseries that I just did in Atlanta. She was there, and I was sort of, like you said, what do you call it? Fangirling or whatever.
Fangirling.
It's like,
When does that come out? I'm so excited about that.
oh, that comes out January, probably October, maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, they
okay.
turn those things around. It's a Hulu Disney thing. It's with Patricia Arquette, isn't it? And this guy, Jason Clarke. And I don't know, and it was just such a great experience for me. I mean, I just felt like I can't believe this. I feel
That's
like
really cool. Now,
I got to do some acting. This kid Johnny Birchtold is in it. He had to have all my scenes with him and Patricia Arquette, and I don't know. It just made me feel good. I just couldn't believe I was number 6 on the call sheet and someone was asking me what I wanted for breakfast. I felt like, really? I'll have a breakfast burrito. I was so stoked. Like, and everyone's like, you're so happy all the time. And I was just like, because I have been really kind of unemployed, not unemployed, but just, I feel like the acting business sort of grabbed me by the lapels and just like smashed my face into the curb, aging as a character actress or whatever the hell I am is a tricky business. It's tricky. It's not easy.
now you've been
Just learn to be a
acting
partner.
since the 80s.
Yeah.
You sort of hit the ground running in the 80s. Um, and I'm wondering because I'm around the same age as you, so that period, early 80s, mid 80s was like high school for us. So you started young.
Yeah. I was 18. I was 18 and this is an interesting thing. On the internet is an interview that I did when I was doing promotion for my first album. And I it makes me sick to even think about because I say acting jobs just haven't been very hard for me. I just get them. I don't know. It was just sickening about how I took for granted the luck that befell me. I mean, that I was in the right place at the right time. And to see that interview, I just want to puke on my shoes, like, good Lord. You lucky bitch, because then, like now I am at Humble Pie City, I'm making self tapes. I'm just trying to figure out and find the joy in making these self tapes. And for those of you who don't know what self tapes are, it's the gateway to getting an acting job now. It's no longer the audition in the room, it's these self tapes. So I've just been doing that. And that's few and far between. And I feel like I have to just keep putting my best foot forward, keep swinging, basically, keep swinging. And it's hard.
Do you
It's
think that
hard. At
because
61 years old, it's fucking hard.
now you've been sober for a long time?
Hmm.
How old were you when you got sober?
I was 29.
Okay.
29, and I'm
That's kind of a baby
61
to me.
now. What?
That's kind of a baby to
I
me.
I think so too. My oldest son is 30. Is he 30, Ruby, or 29? Jimmy. 29. Okay, he's 29. My
So he's
oldest.
the age that you were when you got sober.
Yeah, isn't that
So
crazy?
so when you were first starting acting, was it like a big drinking culture? Or do you feel like it was just you? And I also want to know if you think that your long-term sobriety has helped you be more resilient when things aren't going well.
Oh, great questions. Okay, so when I got sober, excuse me, when I was in the throes in the acting business, my first acting job was private school for girls in 1982. Um, and the craft service person was the Coke dealer. We partied every night with the whole cast and crew, hardcore. I found my best friend on earth. in that cast, and she and I were just on, we were trying to do the old blackout preventative cocaine dance with, like, if I do 4 martinis plus a quarter gram, up, I missed the four, now I'm into six, and we got 2 grams, I mean, I just missed all my calculations because the drunker and higher you get, the more your calculations go to shit. And then it found that, I'd be grinding my teeth at, 6 in the morning, trying to down as much, you know, um, um, NyQuil as I possibly could just to sleep. Sometimes I remember once I decided to go jogging. I mean, can you imagine how taxing that would have been on my poor little heart? Anyway, that's the world that I knew. I didn't know. I knew one chick in AA, and she was weird, and she'd asked me to dinner. And instead of taking me to dinner, once I was in her car, she took me to Rodeo Drive, which is a big Hollywood, sparkly, glittery AA meeting. And I'm like, oh, fuck this. It was horrible for me. I just sat there like, what? Thought we were going to dinner. What the hell? But I heard stuff. Zoinks. Zoinks.
Even though, but you were a kid at that time. You weren't even
Right. There was
legal,
no
right?
way I was going to get sober. Plus, you hit a bottom, not me. I was making more money than I ever had. I had showbiz dollars. No way was I getting sober. So I was too busy buying drinks for the bar, you know what I mean? And it was working. And, outside of the fact that I always missed the mark, it works if you work it. Like, it worked for me for a while, and then I got record deals and plays and movies and flying. I was flying all over the place. And that's when they, in that interview on the web, where I'm just like, acting jobs just come easy to me. Like, oh my God. Like, I just, I was very, very lucky. And I trained a lot, and I'm super passionate, and I wrote a song a day. Like, I was extremely disciplined about my art form because my life depended on it, right? It was the thing that gave me my right to drink and party hard, because all my heroes, fucking, were, whatever. That you can name all the brilliant alcoholics that, those are the people that I admired. And I was like, I'm like them. Ha ha.
So, but when you were doing all the coke and drinking and you were still able to show up at your call time, like when did any of it ever get you in trouble? Because you got nothing but success, or was everybody like late to call time? Or were you just young and could handle your drugs and alcohol and you're just like 6 a.m. you're on set?
No, that's a great. So what happens is that, in my opinion, alcoholism is a progressive disease, and so I was handling it, and then not handling it so much. And then I was missed. I remember I was so close to getting this movie, War of the Roses, and I passed out in the parking lot at 20th Century Fox, and woke up like 2 hours later with the drool and the sun beaming down my head, my bangs all sweated on my forehead. I'm like, I'm ready for the audition. They're like, you know, like, I've had so many, missed it by a lot much, to quote Maxwell Smart. I've had so many opportunities that I just pissed on. I had this great manager that got me record deals and plays, and then finally, it just crashed and burned with my drinking, his codependency, and so then he was out of my, I don't need him, and you just start, it's sort of like the David statue and that allegory people talk about, when they usually say it in glowing terms about they just chipped off the rock to find David. I guess Michelangelo talked about that, where he just, that saying. I mean,
Yeah.
chipped off the rock. Well, for me, I think that happens as well with budding alcoholics who have been gifted opportunities and beautiful lives, and you just slowly, with each situation, chip off the rock until your David looks like a drunk with a cigarette hanging out of your mouth, and you haven't washed your hair, and it's calico and two to weeks and, tattoos you didn't want. Like I got, whatever, just stupid shit. Married, like to a guy I barely knew, just dumb decisions just started to add up and just stack up right higher and higher and higher until finally I got fired off of a movie. And that was like where I couldn't blame my ex-husband. It was only me. I was in New Jersey. I was there, I don't remember getting off the plane, full blackout. I had swizzle sticks in the buttonholes of my jean jacket, because I used to drink Jack and Coke, and so I had just a full jean jacket of swizzle sticks, you know. And as an actress, there's like, my friend made a joke, me actress, me know my lines. Like they just sort of scoop you up at the airport. You don't have to do a lot of any of that interim thinking that normal people have to do. And they take you to the hotel, and then I just crashed and burned and could not stop drinking. It just buried me, and then I got fired before I even started.
Oh,
And that
what was the movie?
it was called Jersey Girls,
I
some
feel
little
like that
movie.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well,
So you get there and you're just out of it. And do you remember what happened? Did they just tell your manager?
oh my
Did they
God,
call you into an office? I
it was
love a good fired
horrible.
story.
Okay, so my husband had overdosed bef the an hour before the limousine rolled up to my house. He overdosed. He didn't die, but he went into a grand mal seizure. I had to take him to the hospital. The whole thing. I was extremely traumatized. I get into the limousine. They're like, "There's beer back there," and I'm like, "Sheesh." I gotta have a cocktail. This is horrific, my day. So that's when the drinking started and the inability to say no. And I just drank to the airport, drank on the plane, drank off the plane, drank from the plane to the hotel, drank that night when I was meeting. Everybody was like, let's meet at the bar. But I'd already been like soused by the time I rolled into the bar. And then I guess I went out with everybody. I don't know. Blackout. Somebody maybe on this planet Earth knows. I don't know. Woke up the next day to watered down vodka, little lime drinks all over. There was like, it was gross. I won't go into the details, but it was gross. And my message light blinking. I call my ex-husband, who was my husband at the time, and he's like, "Baby, they don't want you on this." No, I didn't call him. I ran to the read through. There was a read through. And I roll into the read through 45 minutes late. They're already like, I think they're already getting in the works to fire me. But I just jumped in there and read my lines for the rest of the movie that I had missed. And then they had me go on this charade, this charade of a costume fitting. And everything I put on, they're like, looks great. That looks so good. And I'm like, boy, this is weird. Are you sure this maybe doesn't fit, right? And they were like, nope, looks good. Look, so everybody knew I was fired. And then I remember seeing this actress who was sitting in the hallway, and I was like, "Hey, man," because I knew she went out with us, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I fucked up last night. I feel I'm sorry about that." And she didn't even look at me, and she just went like this.
Oh man.
And I just was like, my heart just dropped, and I was like, well, first you get defensive, screw her, what the hell, And then I got in my hotel room and called my husband. I'm like, everyone's acting so weird. He's like, yeah, dude, you were fired.
How did
They're
he know?
because they had called him, I guess. What's wrong with her? I don't know. It was a mess.
You're
Maybe
like,
the
what's wrong
manager
with her?
called him.
He's the one who just overdosed.
Right, isn't that the way? But I'm the one who just got fired without him. Anyway, it was a long walk with my 3 months of clothes through that hotel room to that limousine, back to the airport, back to LA, and there was my little junky husband picking me up at the airport, drove me back to my house on Dix Street, and and then I called AA Central Office, and that was it. They were like, go down the Robertson Boulevard to the log cabin, and then I remember, I can tell you, I remember walking down Robertson Boulevard. I wore really high shoes because I'm short for my weight, really high shoes, and I remember doing this with every step. till I, till I got to the log cabin
So you just went by yourself?
by myself.
Do you remember if you tried to get him to go too? I feel like that's a thing that we all do. A lot of us do in very early is go like, well, I'm not the only one. These people have a problem too. I'm going to make them go with me.
We did that, he and I. We went to Narcotics Anonymous in Nashville. He went to treatment in Nashville. I paid for it and then helped him escape after a week. Thought we were really, yeah, that was some of my good decision making. So we knew all about AA. I just didn't know if I wanted to do it, if I was that bad or whatever. But when I got fired off the movie, I was like, I don't want this anymore. Plus, my mother is alcoholic, and I know what's down the line in that life. And it sucks. It's this dead life. It's like a zombie life. You know, that's the way my mother lived. Worked all day and then drank herself into a stupor all night and then got up and worked all day. And that is a zombie life. And I just did not want that. Mm-mm.
What about
So
your
I
father?
was, pardon me?
What about your father?
He's like the classic. It's easy for me to blame everything on my mom, but they were a classic Al-Anon alcoholic. He drank every drink for a drink, but he didn't have the personality change that she would have, so he got to be kind of the hero. I don't know what's wrong with your mom, it's pretty unfair in retrospect now that I have been sober 33 years, and in retrospect, you know, he never worked, excuse me, he didn't make very much money. And, my mom had to work and she cleaned and she parented, and he was like this funny, he taught me all these songs. He was a songwriter like me and dad, and I really identified strongly with him. And, in retrospect, my ex-friend, she said, used to say when I discussed my parents' relationship, she'd say, man, there's not enough booze in the world, because my mother was like hungover, vacuuming under our feet. We'd just lift our feet up while we were watching TV. Turn off the vacuum, we're watching. You know what I mean? Can you imagine just sort of like, she was
Yeah.
so mad. And he'd be like, I'm trying to write a song. He has his ukulele and he's like, he ain't never been to Texas. He's trying to write this song. And my mom's like, well, I'm trying to support this household. And he's like, well, I'm trying to write a song. Like it became this whole, what do you want me to do? Sell shoes? That's what he'd always say. She's like, yeah, kind of. You have 5 kids, you dope, you know. So,
Wow. Five of you guys.
yeah. Well, two half and then three whole. So my dad had 2 kids before he married my mother.
Okay.
But we used to all think of ourselves as one for all for one. And then when my dad got Alzheimer's, we recognized that that was not the case. And so my 2 older sisters can go do their lives forever, huh? And we will do our lives. We aren't one for all and all for one. You realize that your parents have different relationships with their different kids. They don't, turns out, love you all the same.
I have the same experience. So I'm
Really?
with
Tell
you.
me, because I've been
Yeah.
blabbling this whole time.
No, no, no. This is about you. I feel like people already know about me, but no, I relate to that. Well, I have a whole different situation. My biological father had I was my mom was number 3, wife number 3. Then he had a wife number 4 and he had kids from all the marriages and I don't have a relationship with any of those. I haven't even met most of them except for
Really?
one. Well, I never lived with any of them. I mean, they were already older. Uh, but then also my brother and sister are from my stepfather, and I have very different relationships with each of them. One of them, super close. One of them, haven't talked to in a really, really long time. But it does have to do with that dynamic of like what parent is close to what how they treat you. So bonded me and one of the siblings and did not bond me and the other. Let's put it that way.
Well, we had an event. My dad, when he was um, diagnosed with Alzheimer's, my two half sisters never spoke to him again and completely ghosted him. And as anyone who knows, walking a parent across the old Rainbow Bridge who's got brain disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, is a excruciating journey. Painful to watch brilliant people just disintegrate before your very eyes. And so their decision to ghost him and break his heart like that made it very difficult for me to, well, I just didn't have respect for it. I just didn't have respect for that. And so it is in direct conflict with what I believe my spiritual practice is because I'm mad and I have to pray to become willing to forgive them. It's tricky. It's very
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah. So, so take me back though. You get sober. That was it? You went to that meeting and you never drank again?
See, the first time I went to, well, yeah, and that was in 1991 or 1992. Um, yeah, it was May 28th, 1992. And I just started the journey and I did what they told me to do, except there was a little pill discrepancy issue. So me and my ex found a bunch of pills. Somebody died in our neighborhood. It was during the end of the AIDS crisis, and they had pushed all their stuff out onto the curb. And we found a box full of narcotics and pills. So we took the box back to our house and we divided the pills up. So I had my little stash. And then there came a time when I was going to get my year, we celebrate our year
Right.
sobriety dates, and I was going to get my year. And my ex-husband's like, man, I'm not giving you your. I said, you got to give me a cake. He's like, I'm not giving you a cake unless you stand up there and say, my name is Kathleen and I'm a liar. And I was like,
Oh,
how dare you, And
this is like a movie.
yeah, I was so, and then I had to tell my sponsor, and she's like, just go and tell the truth. We're clean and sober. Now you know. I'm glad you didn't drink for a year because drinking is my problem, not the pills. I had a real agoraphobia and real sleep disorder, is what I told myself. And anyway, so I picked a date because my best trudging buddy, her birthday was December 14th. So I just picked, no, December 15th. So I just picked her date because I knew I had run out of pills by December 15th when I had, from May to December, I had run out of pills and was clean and sober from December 15th on.
But not really on purpose, but because you'd run out.
Yeah.
Because I have always said, like, I love pain pills. Loved, love, 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 love the feeling. It was just the act of trying to get more was always seemed really hard to me. So when I would get a prescription for Vicodin for like dental work, then I would get the prescription and then take them all like within a week, like really like so many a day until they were gone, like potato chips. But then I would be like, damn it, how am I going to get more? And then my brain would start to go like, I could like order them from Canada, but it's like super expensive. And I'm going to have to explain why I'm getting like packages from Canada to my husband. Or, I could like go to a different doctor and say that I have a back problem or whatever. And then I'd be like, or I could just go to Trader Joe's and get some wine, and then I would therefore not be fully addicted to pills. But it wasn't by my choice. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'd had a bunch, I would have for sure had a real situation. So I just think it's funny that you just ran out and then you're like, okay, I guess I'm not going to do that anymore.
Whether it takes you quote unquote out and you officially relapse or you you take yourself out. Because like my friend said, my buddy, he's like, Remember, people who take themselves out when they're high, they're killing the wrong guy. And I feel like she killed the wrong guy. You know what I mean? She killed the wrong guy because if she hung on one more day, like our friend Carney says, hold on for one more day, she would have she would have been like, Jesus, well, that was an overreaction. You know what I mean? It's a real uh wake up call.
I get that, you know, of all the things, of all the vices, I know that like I can't ever take even, any kind of benzos again, even because when I originally was given Xanax, I was like, oh my gosh, thank God. Thank God there's something that can make me feel normal. Because I think I had a wake up call that I'd been suffering from anxiety my whole life. And so I was like, is this how people feel all the time? They feel like this. It didn't make me tired. It didn't make me nauseous. It just made me like, oh my God, I can function. And that's so dangerous because the recovery way is definitely the hard way. In the end, in the long run, it's so much better and it's is kind of the easier, softer way, but you don't know it at the time. So it was very bad news to me when I got sober that I would also have to like never take pain pills, never take Xanax. I had to titrate off of Xanax. I was on a prescribed dose, but I've always known just deep in my heart that I could never go back to that. Even though in my mind, I was like, that was not my problem. I could take that as directed. But there's something about doing something that tricks your brain into thinking like, oh no, this is how I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to feel good. There's something that tells me in my deepest self that I'm an addict. Like the fact that I think a substance is going to make me feel normal and better and functional is the most dangerous type of thinking. So I completely understand and have a good, healthy fear of like being prescribed anything. You know what I mean? When my brain starts to go, you know what? You're having some real, genuine anxiety. Maybe you should think about taking a pill. I always go, oh, that thinking is so old because I've been sober 16 years. So you know a little something about yourself, right? After that many years. But so I
That's
want to,
the
yeah.
No, that's a very good point. I feel, my people from a younger generation in my household have said, you have anxiety disorder, and mom, you have all this. And I'm like, no, I am throwing a tantrum. This is a tantrum. This is me not wanting to do what I have to do. This is not an anxiety disorder that I need to be medicated from, And did you just hear the
Yes.
door shut? That was my son. He
I
left.
didn't hear it.
Okay. Um, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's like I have to really defend myself against that kind of thinking that could come back at any time. But I want to go back because I'm very interested. So you get sober. Now you're still a musician, actress. Like, did you have to like lick your wounds for a little while before you got back in? Because then you had some big roles on some TV shows, which I was a big fan. ER. So by the way, you know that show, The Pit? It was basically, I say it's a reboot of ER, but they will argue that it's not. It's a completely original show. But anyway, that inspired me to go back and watch old episodes of ER. I went back to like season one. And damn, girl, you were the star. You were a star. You had a huge lead. You had a huge storyline. You played Chloe. You played what's her name's sister, Doctor. I can't remember her name.
Sherry Stringfield is the
Yeah,
actress.
yes, exactly. You played the sister. You were sober, right, at that time?
Yeah.
So your
I
career, you got sober and then your career got real big.
yeah. Yeah, I remember at 30 days of sobriety, I had to go to work. Was doing a movie and I my sponsor is an actress and I was terrified to go to work and she's like, "Why are you so scared?" And I was like, they're going to fire me. I know it. I know it. They're going to fire me." And she's like, "Are you drinking?" I was like, "No, I got my 30-day chip. I told you." She's like, They might fire you. They probably won't. They fired you because you were drinking, Kath, you know. They like be clear about that. And I was like, okay. She goes, all you can do is the best you can do. So no, learn your lines and hit your marks and try to be of service when you're not in front of the camera. When you're in front of the camera, be of service to your fellow actors. I was like, okay. Okay. But I was like shaking when I got to the work because I was just like, hi, hi. I just felt like, oh, I'm so getting fired. I felt like I was at a sandwich board sign that says like, I'm gonna be fired, you know. Anyway, I did that movie and I really had a great time. And it also taught me the valuable lesson of doing everything you can do to do the right thing. What we say in our community, do the next indicated step. Do your footwork, put your ass in the seat so your heart will follow. You know, all of these cliches I employed, deployed, whatever. And and it was amazing. And then I thought I'd never be able to write a song again. And then I just started writing song after song after I stayed in my write a song every single day until finally I after I gave birth to my son, I got super postpartum depressed and felt like I was going to lob my baby off the balcony. And my husband was like, I finally told him the truth, like that's why I can't go out on the balcony. And he's like, you know what? I think you need to make a record. Let's just make a record. And so he produced my
I
record.
thought that was going to go a totally different way. I thought he was going to be like, I think you need to go to the hospital, or I think you need like
Oh,
medication. He's like, I think we need to make a song about it.
you know
That's
what he
hilarious.
actually said? Because I just burst into tears because it was such a secret. Because I told him my secret that I felt like I would drop him off the balcony, and he said, "Then don't go out on the balcony. Let's make a
Dave,
record." I know he's a good dude.
sweet Dave.
He's a good guy. And he said, let's make a record. And then he goes, you got all these songs. So we made a record. And then, yeah, and then I
Was
went
that
to,
pitched like a girl?
yeah.
Okay, so I told Kathleen, I mentioned this to Kathleen before we started recording, but I do think it bears repeating that I was already a fan. I worked with your husband, on a TV show. I mean, many, 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 many years ago. And you came strolling in, and he said, my wife, Kathleen, she's a musician. And I guess he hadn't, because you guys have different last names. So the way in my memory, he hadn't said my wife is Kathleen Wilhoite. So I just wasn't thinking about it. He's like, yeah, my wife, she's a musician. Um, and then when you came into the office with your baby in the stroller, and I was like, oh my God, that's Kathleen Wilhoite. And I don't think you were like super well known even for your music at that point. But I already owned your CD because I'd heard it on this radio station in LA that played a lot of like new music and broke a lot of sort of adult alternative singer songwriter types. And I had bought the CD. Maybe I owned two. Did Shiva come out at that? Shiva? Had that already come out? Okay, then I had whatever it was, I had already played that on repeat. So I was very much fangirling you and like, oh my God, I didn't know that that was your wife. That's crazy. And then I was really excited.
That's so sweet. I
I
love
know.
that.
So I mean,
Makes me
your
feel good.
music, you are an amazing musician. I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that I love playing music. I love it so, so much. And it is a little bit bucket listy for me because my friend is Dina Carter. She sold 13 million, you know, strawberry
Yeah.
wine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She's my friend, and we recently got back in touch. Long story, it doesn't matter. Anyway, she and I were talking about it. But the life of the musician is very hard on for me as a woman with children. You know, touring, like it's just a very hard and being sober. it's just tricky. So I don't miss the life of a musician, but the act of writing a song, bringing it to life, performing it on stage is something I never want to forget. It is truly so profoundly fulfilling to me in my bone marrow, singing something that I wrote, that I created from nothing. That's why I love so much. I do Jail Guitar Doors, which is um, it's this, Wayne Kramer started this thing, Jail Guitar Doors, and it's a bunch of songwriters that go into the jails and they've got guitars and stuff, and you get to write songs with the inmates.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I love it so much. And many times because there's no ego there. Like I can't film me. Look at me. I'm a badass in jail writing songs with you. Like you can't take your phone in there. So you're really doing this art form at its most, like the pearl of what's extraordinary about the process of writing a song and performing it. And there's great acoustics in jail. Like, I just sing out, and then the song is gone like a butterfly. It's gone. And I get in my car after me and my buddy Pete go for a Philippe sandwich, and I drive home. And many times I just weep about this act, this gift of songwriting. What a blessing it is that I get to do this thing. And yeah, I would have loved to stand in front of thousands of people and sing my songs and have people sing the choruses back to me. I would love that. But that's just not what is in the cards for me today. And I dare say that the satisfaction I get from Jail Guitar Doors and driving home from a night of songwriting with inmates, and the satisfaction Dina Carter gets for playing, at Staples Center, whatever. I bet they rival each other. I bet they're close. I think they are. I will choose to believe that they are.
You wrote an amazing song about that choice, about that struggle in your mind of like, is it enough to be at home and not and give up that kind of dream? I forget now, what's it called? What was that song
Somebody
called?
to worry about.
Somebody to
I
worry about
wrote
it.
that for
Oh,
a
I love
TV
that
show,
song.
for Nicole's TV show. Do you know Nicole? She was the lead
Oh yeah,
singer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was a kind of
W-
an interesting thing. My friends said, "Hey, Kath, they need a song for this show we're doing the music for, and we think you'd be they really want you to write the song for it." I said, "Great." So they said, "But they want to meet with you first to give you the idea around what they want the song to be about." And so I met with them. And I brought a notebook, and they started saying it's a woman who, had a little bits of success with her music career, and then she had children, and then she just finally decided that she just wanted to be home with her children, but she always still yearned to play the, I'm like in my
You're
mind,
like,
you mean my freaking freakity freak life? You know what I mean? Like, good Lord. Yeah, I got it. I got it. I still was like, like, because why didn't I even audition for that freaking show? You know what I mean? Like, nobody called me. So I go home, I pick up the guitar, and I just strum me. I think I wrote that on the uke, maybe. It just somebody to worry about. I just started writing a song, and then yeah, and whatever. I got some couple of bucks for it, sending it for the TV show. But damn, I was like, what the hell? What is this?
what was that TV show?
Rita rocks. Rita,
Okay.
Rita rocks. And Nicole, she's a friend of mine. She played the lead, and she got to sing it.
Oh my
And then I
gosh.
said to my attorney, because there was one they wanted to change lyrics in the bridge, and I was so furious about it. Like, who wanted to change the lyrics? Like, and I call my attorney, and she's like, Kath, if you give a song to a TV show or a movie, you got to look at it like that's your stepkid, not your kid. You got to be loose and forget, because they're paying you. And,
Interesting.
yeah.
So, okay, so I just want to go back for a minute because there's all these little trails. So you go back, you start getting like doing really well with your acting because then you're on ER, then you did LA Law after that or before that? You played Benny's girlfriend. You played a disabled person. You were
Yes.
so good. I feel like you were kind of at the height. I mean, probably at that point, like everybody knew your name, right?
It was good, a
And your
good time.
summer at that
Good
point.
time.
So
Remember in that interview, acting comes easy.
yeah, 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 yeah. So
I
when
had a
did,
good manager. Like,
and then was there a point where you were like, oh shit, this is getting hard?
yeah. Oh, hell yeah. So yeah, did acting job after acting job. I loved it. Me and my friend Xander Berkeley, we were on a movie together and he's like, look, we got the same size resume, so I started stacking up stuff. And then he just catapulted because he aged into a whole new level. I mean, that guy's never stopped working. He's brilliant. And I just, because, all of the former leading ladies took the character roles from the character actresses. And it just got to a point when I was in my late 40s or whatever, and my husband, very sweet, he sat me down. I remember we're on the front stoop, and he's like, "Baby, I need you got to get a job." And I was like, "I'm trying. I'm writing a great American novel." And he's like, "No, honey, no, I need you to get a real job."
Like what?
And well, I was like, I don't even know, and I don't even know what to do. I've only acted. Like I came down to LA and 30 days in, I got an acting gig, a movie. And I ended up having to get a job that summer. And I got a job for about 2 months at a market research place. And then I got another movie. And then I just had worked all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way, 48.
Well, you were teaching for a while too, though, right?
So I went back to college at 50 and got my master's degree at a program at Cal State Long Beach they had for industry professionals to go back to school. So I didn't get my undergraduate degree and was able to get my a master's degree. And in 2 years, I got my master's degree.
I want
And
to hear about this because I never went to college, but I would really like to teach at college. But I'm like, oh, am I going to go back to school for like 6 years? I mean, I'll be retired by then.
right, but you have published books from a major publishing house.
Yes.
Like for, who doesn't have to get their master's degree and teach at college? Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm not Stephen
I
King.
understand that, but in the literary world, you might have a lot more juice than you think. And you can teach at a private college. You now, can you teach at Cal State Long Beach? Can you teach at UCLA? Probably not. You could probably
No.
teach in the extension courses, but in order to break through the algorithm, unless you knew somebody in the lit department or English department or whatever, that can change things. But there is a way. Now, I do think you could investigate getting a master's degree, utilize. You never got an undergraduate degree? So you can invest. There's a way, like you can go to Antioch or Pacifica or whatever. There's a way that they can use your professional experience. I don't know if you want to put
Well,
this in.
more about me later, but so you went back though, you did this program and then you were able to teach.
Yeah, they had when I this program that I was in have you teaching day one. So I went back to
Wow.
college and had a class of 50 students, wide-eyed, never acted before. And I'll tell you, teaching, and I know you've got some experience
I do teach, yeah.
teaching, but te experience is maybe 80% of the game. So my standing in front of 50 students, if you were to try to connect with each one, I had an hour and 15 minutes with these students. So I spent 20 minutes doing my attendance, right? Because I need to, especially with acting, you want it's, you are your instrument, you are your paintbrush, right? So it behooves a professor to kind of get a little bit of a handle on each student. So when I t took I'd have them all sit in alphabetical order according to their last name, so I could just go from kid to kid to kid to kid to kid. But I would have to just be like, hey, you, I see you, I see you, Stephanie Wilder Taylor. Do you like me to say what? And just try to connect, like, wow, here you are at school, just trying to make a connection with each one of the students. And then I had to develop a curriculum and whatever. Anyway, I just got better and better and better and better at teaching until finally I landed my dream job, which is acting for the camera up at Cal Arts. I just love teaching at Cal Arts.
Isn't
It's
teaching so fun?
it is fun. It's funny. It is fun. I feel like saying to you, the professional writer with books published, it's fun. You know what I mean? It is fun as an actress, whatever. I heard what was it? Ethan Hawke. I heard him. So he was saying, if you don't love acting and teaching, get out of the business. He started sort of railing about, and I felt like, bitch, said the guy who gets to pick and choose movies. You get to tell me about teaching, motherfucker, when I had to, I mean, I taught on the other coast at an art school full of ungrateful, no talented, like people that entitled, just, I mean, it was horrible for me. You know what I mean? And that was when I was a full-time teacher. That's rough. Teaching people are never going to act professionally. They have no talent and they're just needing a babysitting service, and I remember seeing that Ethan Hawke thing and I was like, oh, said the guy who gets to float on stage at a SAG-AFTRA, special class with Ethan Hawke. I'm like, "Urgh,"
Well, I
because
don't think,
teaching is rough.
well,
When you have to do it,
right.
it
And
can
full
be
time.
rough. And there are beautiful moments in teaching. I love it when it goes great, when it's good, and you have a class that gels and this happens at Cal Arts because the kids are so talented, and you just see them just like explode off the screen. They're so gifted. I mean, that is I drive home just like, I love this. I've seen scenes where they perform so well. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm in the presence of performing art. This is the greatest thing. I love what you just did. Um, and that's fantastic. But for people that have attained success in their chosen field, and then bitch at people who are struggling to pay their bills and trying to do the right thing, who never really got to do their thing. I have a little bit of a problem with that, Ethan.
I think
Shame on you.
anything that you have to do full time, there's going to be burnout factor. And yeah, I think I was thinking of it more as like I teach memoir writing, but it's part time. It's only a few hours every week. And I love it because all the people that are there want to be there. So I just love hearing people come up with a story and like you at CalArts, more like those moments, especially if you're also doing what you love to do.
Exactly. And I got to do both. I get to do both. I get to teach and I get to act when I get those acting gigs. Like I did this last semester. I got to do both. I was blessed to get to do both. And I felt very delighted by that, and it's wonderful. And I also feel like it gives me something to actually give to the students. Like the stuff that I'm teaching you is stuff that I actually do. And it's upped my game as an actress because I tell my students like you know there's so much time in the middle of a movie set where you can actually do your art, where you can actually do your work, while they're setting up the lights, you can do the personalization with all the objects on the set and get that really nice in your body, all these things. So I ended up doing those things that I teach, where prior to teaching, I got lazy and just was like, lines in the makeup chair. I got it. You know what I mean? And then this last job, I got to do all my stuff. I didn't even look like myself. In this, I got to transform. The costume people were so talented. It was just such a blessing to be sober and present for, too, by the way, to recognize how lucky I was to have that job. And
So let
blessed I
me so,
was.
so that brings me back to to two more questions. But I just want to say, so you being sober, you've been sober a really long time. There are a lot of people who are sober for a long time and they're like at some point, usually fairly early on, they're like, okay, I got it. Like I'm sober. I don't need to do a bunch of stuff or help other alcoholics or you know what I mean? So what do you think is the difference for you since when you got sober, you stayed sober and you had a very busy, successful life? What made you stay in recovery and you know, active in recovery, helping people? Like what do you think that was?
I have seen people who stray from the program, and the way I think dry alcoholism comes alive is very unattractive to me. It's scary. It's gross. You see people that participated in our community and then they don't go to meetings anymore. You see them relapse. You see them die. You see them break out in the news because I'm in Los Angeles and many people are in the entertainment business. Break out in the news in drunken, horrible, humiliating TMZ flames. Um, you run into them out in the world and they're kind of brisk, crispy, nasty, and I don't want any of that. The other thing that I think keeps me in the game is I have extraordinary chef's kiss people in my life. My best trudging buddy, Jessica, my sponsor, who I feel like gets me in my bone marrow. She gets me. She's not intimidated by the way I express myself. A lot of people think I'm yelling, and I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at the universe. My sponsor yells at the universe. She's very dramatic, and she gets me, because I'm not trying to clobber anybody. I'm just trying to figure it out in my mind. You can tell that I'm kind of like vociferous, like kind of person. So my sponsor gets me. I have a community that I go to dinner with on Sunday nights before my speaker meeting that I pick the speakers for. And so I'm very involved. I'm very involved in the convention we have every year out here in the West Valley. And last year I wrote and directed a play for that. And it just I see people, how many, if I see people standing up in front of people saying, if it weren't for Kathleen, like you start hearing stuff like that, it's hard to look in the mirror and go, wow, you're a piece of shit. It's hard to do that because
Yeah.
you did something today. You did a good thing. You tried your hardest. You tried to be of service to people. I know what it feels like and the struggle of how it feels to to have to go to that first meeting. It's brutal, brutal. And if I can alleviate any of that kind of pain just by virtue of the fact if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do any of that, um, and that's the glue. That's what keeps me going in there.
Yeah.
That's why I keep going. When I don't go, I start yelling at people. I start thinking my kids are so ungrateful. How come I have to do everything? If I have to do everything and you do nothing, we got a big problem here. These are all things that I've said. I found myself when I moved to the West Valley, I didn't want to go to meetings out here, and I found myself in my backyard sort of wanting to scream out to the valley because I had this view to scream out, hello! like I'm alive. You know what I mean? Just I felt like I'm alive. Like I didn't have my normal outlet, which is my community. It's a huge part of my mental health, and I value it. I don't mess with it, and I go to my regular meetings, regular meeting day, and I do all of that. And I sponsor people, even though there's a million other things that I might rather do. After I finish working with somebody, again, looking in the mirror, brushing my teeth, like it's hard to feel like you're a piece of
Yeah.
garbage. I start feeling like, hey, maybe I did a good, I'm not so bad.
So let me wrap this up by asking you, by going back to the original question. I feel like we might have the answer, but how has being sober helped you from the time you got sober through then you all your success and then like the hard times? Like, do you attribute sobriety to keeping you humble, keeping you serene, like through all those ups and downs of life?
Prior to sobriety, I think I was an acquired taste. I was super volatile, right? I was super volatile. I was a prima
We're not for
donna.
everybody.
I know. I was a prima donna. There are people who think I'm sure. I used to was very contentious with people. Love to just bawl people out and have them look at me like I'm a psycho. Like there's a lot of really poor behavioral things that I exhibited prior to sobriety. And then once I stepped up onto that sober train, right, and started riding down those rails where I started seeing like, oh, when you are able to talk about your part in a conflict, the other person can oftentimes talk about their part in the conflict, and I don't need to go around bawling people out. Oh, that works. Tick, 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 tick. Oh, showing up with a full heart on time, ready to go, makes people respond in kind, in a genuine and sweeter way. Tick, 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 to like, I just learned all these little tidbits. Oh, at 5 years of sobriety, because I strive to have another graceful day, I end up with a guy like David Hart. Like, what the hell? This guy treats me like gold. He's a good hang. We like the same TV shows. Like, this is, and I'm afraid if I take a drink, gone. I'm back on my backyard. Hello! I'm alive. That's why when I was teaching full time out on a marsh and in freaking the other coast and in the South, I stopped going to meetings. I stopped paying attention to my sobriety. I did go to a couple Zoom meetings. And I found myself smoking cigarettes in my screened-in porch, listening to bugs, hating everybody my students mostly. I just freaking hating them. And I felt like I could drink. No one would know. I'll be sober in California. I'm not going to get sober in the South. I'll drink I am. And I called my sponsor and she's like, I think you should come home. I called my husband. He's like, I said, I think I need to come home, baby. I think I could drink here. I'm that unhappy. And he's like, okay, let's just finish out the year and we'll drive home together. And I did. I finished out the year. I was so happy after I knew I was done after that last semester. And then Dave came out and we just drove across the country and we were like, what? Listen, blaring music, rock and roll, and cruising to Memphis and, Oklahoma City. We just had the best time driving back. And I knew when I saw the mustard freaking smog and homeless people, I was like, I'm home. And the thing I wanted to see the most were my AA people. I
Yeah.
needed to go and be with my people. It is a huge part of my mental health.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been I don't want to say a treat because that sounds so like it's been amazing. I adore you. I adore your story. I adore your honesty. Give us all the tell us your priorities. Where do you want people to find you? Watch what is it called? The Murdaugh Murders? That's the series that's coming out in October. Instagram, music. Are you putting music up on I almost
You're
called it
talking to
iTunes,
me like
Apple.
I'm gonna do the right thing and promote some of
Yeah,
my
promote
stuff and
yourself.
not wonder why the universe doesn't come knocking on my door, grabbing me by the lapel, saying, "Let me publish your manuscript. Let me publish your manuscript." Because
Yeah.
that's what I want to have happen. So if you're a publisher or a literary agent, please come knocking on my door. My lapels are available. You are welcome to publish my.
Well, if they want to come and grab you by the lapels, they're going to have to like follow you on Instagram first or something. So where can people
I
find
know.
you?
Instagram. I'm the real Kathleen W on Instagram.
Okay.
And I just my online game is I'm Gen X, like it's not great. I'm on Facebook. Couldn't tell you how to get there, but I friend some people. I'm at like 5,000 people, but oh, I do a cameo if you want.
Oh,
There you go. You
that's
can hire
fun.
me for cameo. I'll sing you a
Okay.
little ditty.
Oh, I love
But
that.
really, my dream is to I would like to do like you. I like to write stories. So that's where in the acting business we say uh, where the attention goes, the energy flow. Where the energy goes, the attention flows. Or whatever. That's what I spend my time doing. When I sign off of here, I'm going to clean my house for 1 hour, and then I go back to my second novel that I'm writing and writing. So and my first novel I'm sending out to different publishers and agents and stuff. So that's where my passion is today. My dream is to write my way out of self-tapes.
But can people download your music though? You have a lot of songs on
No,
Apple
I
Music,
don't
right?
have that
No?
game going. I don't even know. Maybe they can. I mean, sometimes I find it, but I'm not getting any dough from it. Somebody else is. But maybe I'll get that together. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I'm gonna
Okay,
be
well, I look
losers
forward to that. I'm gonna
podcasters.
I'm gonna post some of your songs, but thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Super
I hope
fun.
it's okay.
It's great.
Okay, you're
Bye.
wonderful. Bless you.
Feeling like life is good.